15 of the smartest engineers, millions of dollars in equipment, and weeks of nonstop work. Yet they failed. But then, out of nowhere, a delivery driver walked in with food, looked at the problem for just a few seconds, and solved what no one else could. What happened next left an entire company speechless. Imagine this. 15 of the brightest engineers in a cutting-edge, million-dollar tech company were stuck. For weeks, they had been working around the clock on a critical problem. A massive, state-of-the-art machine, an automated delivery system designed to revolutionize shipping, simply refused to work the way it was supposed to. What started as a dream project had turned into a nightmare. Deadlines slipped. Executives grew restless. Investors demanded answers. Every passing day meant money lost, credibility damaged, and the team's confidence slowly crumbling. Inside the company's labs, the atmosphere was tense. Whiteboards filled with complex diagrams. Engineers debated furiously. Teams huddled around laptops, trying new codes and algorithms. Expensive consultants were flown in, promising solutions that never came. No matter how many hours they poured in, the outcome was always the same: failure. The machine jammed, shut down, and mocked their brilliance. And then, just when hope was nearly gone, fate delivered a twist nobody could have predicted. A man walked in, not wearing a lab coat, not holding a laptop, not even part of the engineering team. He was simply there to drop off food, a black delivery driver, standing quietly at the door. But within moments, he would notice something everyone else had missed. What he did next shocked the entire room into silence, before it erupted in thunderous applause. And that's where the story of the hidden chapters begins. The machine in question wasn't just any machine. It was designed to be the future of logistics. A marvel of engineering that could automatically sort, pack, and send out deliveries at lightning speed. On paper, it was flawless. In company presentations, it looked revolutionary. But when tested in the real world, everything fell apart. Boxes jammed halfway down the conveyor belts. Sensors misfired, rejecting perfectly good packages. Robotic arms froze mid-motion. Sometimes the entire system would just shut down for no reason at all. What was meant to save time and money was now draining both. The engineers pulled every trick they knew. They rewrote entire sections of software. They swapped out expensive hardware components. They ran test after test, each more desperate than the last. But every attempt only seemed to create new problems. Frustration grew, and the atmosphere in the lab turned heavier by the day. The project manager paced nervously, his career hanging on this machine. Investors whispered about pulling funding. Millions of dollars and the company's reputation were teetering on the edge of collapse. And then, fate made its entrance. Late one night, while the exhausted engineers ordered food to fuel yet another round of troubleshooting, the delivery driver rolled in with their dinner. Glancing at the chaotic scene, he asked casually, "Wow, what's going on here?" The engineers chuckled. "Nothing you'd understand. It's too technical." But little did they know, he was about to change everything. The delivery driver, whose name was Marcus, wasn't just any ordinary driver. Unknown to the engineers, Marcus had once worked in a warehouse where he spent years repairing heavy machinery. He wasn't formally trained as an engineer, but he had a natural gift, an instinct for how machines behaved. He loved solving puzzles, tinkering with gears, and spotting small details that others often overlooked. As Marcus stood waiting for the engineers to sign his receipt, his eyes wandered across the massive contraption dominating the room. Amid the flashing lights, beeping alarms, and frustrated faces, one detail caught his attention. A conveyor belt, meant to move packages smoothly, kept jerking in the exact same spot every single time. To Marcus, this wasn't random, it was a pattern. "Hey," Marcus said casually, almost as if he were pointing out something obvious. "Did anyone check if that sensor's angle is off? Looks like it's misreading the box every time it passes." The room froze. The chatter stopped. Engineers stared at him as if he had spoken another language. Nobody, despite weeks of testing, had considered something as simple as the angle of a sensor. They had swapped out hardware, updated software, recalibrated controls, yet overlooked this basic adjustment. Half amused, half desperate, one engineer smirked and said, "All right, let's humor the delivery guy. Somebody check it." And that's when the impossible happened. One of the engineers crouched beside the conveyor and adjusted the sensor, just a few degrees, exactly as Marcus had suggested. It seemed too simple, almost laughable after weeks of sleepless nights and complicated theories. Still, they decided to test it. The machine roared to life. At first, everyone held their breath, expecting another failure. But then, something different happened. For the first time in weeks, the conveyor moved smoothly. The boxes glided down the belt with perfect rhythm. The robotic arms picked them up and packed them without hesitation. No jams, no alarms, no sudden shutdowns. The entire room fell silent. Engineers who had been hunched over screens for weeks now stood frozen, staring in disbelief. This wasn't a multi-million-dollar fix. It wasn't some complex code rewrite. It was a tiny adjustment, a detail so small it had been invisible to 15 highly trained experts. And then, as reality sank in, the silence broke. Some engineers laughed out loud. Others shook their heads in shock. A few even applauded. The project manager, still stunned, walked up to Marcus and said with genuine awe, "You just solved what 15 engineers couldn't in 3 weeks. That was brilliant." From that moment forward, Marcus wasn't just a delivery driver. He became the man remembered for saving a failing project, simply by noticing what no one else did. And this is where the story becomes truly powerful. You see, it was never about Marcus being just a delivery driver. It was about perspective. Sometimes, the most trained minds can get trapped in their own complexity. They overanalyze, overthink, and overlook the obvious. But an outsider, someone who isn't buried under pressure or blinded by technical details, can spot the solution instantly. Marcus proved something timeless. True intelligence isn't measured by degrees, titles, or fancy offices. It's measured by the ability to observe, to question, and to have the courage to speak up, even when nobody expects you to. His story is a reminder that no voice is too small, no idea too unimportant. You never know when your unique perspective might be the missing piece to a giant puzzle. So the next time you feel like your input doesn't matter, think of Marcus, the delivery driver who solved $1 million problem with a single observation. And if this story inspired you, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the Hidden Chapters, and tap the bell icon so you never miss a story like this. Because here at the Hidden Chapters, we share the stories that inspire, surprise, and remind us that greatness often comes from the most unexpected places. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the quietest voice holds the loudest solution.